Hey guys, was thinking on the way to work today about how many of our paths in life are incredibly winding all over the place, right? It could be money, it could be your health, that you go forward and backwards, it could be relationships. There's all kinds of things that create a winding road for us in life. And I think one of the most profound ones for me has been my spiritual path. And I know there's a lot of people that understand that it isn't always so black and white, that there can be changes. There can be a lot of changes. To whatever you believed 10, 20, 30 years ago, you may not believe now at all. Or maybe you only believe a portion of it. Maybe you only believe part of it. Or maybe you've radically changed and you went from a fairly non-spiritual person to a deeply spiritual person. Or maybe you went from a fairly non-religious person to an incredibly deeply religious person. And I know for myself the changes have been outrageously profound. I used to, as a former pastor of a church, I used to spout all kinds of spiritualisms and religious statements that I don't believe now. Like, I'm going to give you just a couple examples of how I've radically changed. And if I say things that trigger you because you still believe in them, that's great. Whatever works for you, right? But I just wanted to share that it's okay to believe one way a number of years ago and to radically change those beliefs today. So, like, you're always where you're supposed to be. That was a great spiritual tenet that we used to talk about in my church. And, oh, my God, I've done sermons all over the world. I've even done a sermon in the Roman Catholic Church, which is the church I grew up in, which is unheard of. An all-faith minister going into a Roman Catholic church, they invited me in to do the sermon. Incredible. I was so filled with gratitude and love for that opportunity. But some of these statements, like you're always where you're supposed to be, it's not necessarily true at all. I mean, we can use these statements to justify not changing, and that's a very scary thing. There are no mistakes in life. Oh my God, I used to speak that. What a bunch of nonsense. Shit, we're filled with mistakes, I look at all the mistakes I make now, and it was really great back then to say that you never make mistakes in life. It was a very comforting, because no matter what you're doing and where you are, you can justify it. Isn't that incredible? Another one, you're exactly where God wants you to be. Not necessarily true at all. I used to use that, and a lot of my congregants when I was a pastor used to use that so that we didn't have to change. You're exactly where God wants you. If God wanted you somewhere else, he would put you somewhere else. I think that's absolute nonsense a lot of the times. So you're in addiction and someone says to you, well, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. It's like, oh yeah, thank you. I just got a green card so I don't have to change. You're struggling with finances. If God wanted you to have more money, you would have more money. I said, oh my God, come on. Would you just wake up, David? What the hell are you preaching this crap for? That was years ago. And I've made some radical changes, and I haven't left my spiritual path. As a matter of fact, I love my spiritual path. I love it more now than I've ever loved it because I'm realistic with it, Let go, let God. Another really big teaching. Again, we can use these statements to take away self-responsibility. Let God handle it. Just turn it over. As you go back to drinking, smoking, overeating, abusing your children, being a shithead to your partner, let go, let God. Just take a big breath, let go, let God. I really want this to be this video. I'm not trying to change your opinion. I want you to think deeply, though, because a lot of these things that I used to preach are not true for me. And as I continue my own path of seeing what's true and what isn't true, I want to share it. Just like in our #1 best-selling book on positive thinking. Oh my God, for years I told people whatever you believe you can achieve. That is a bunch of nonsense. Just because you believe something doesn't mean you can achieve it. If you believe it really deeply and you go and work your ass off and do the uncomfortable, yes, you can achieve great things. But look at your spiritual, like my spiritual teachings, where'd they come from? My gurus, right? So years ago, Ram Dass and Deepak, Ram Dass back into the 70s, and then in the 80s, Wayne and Deepak, and in the 90s, it went on and on and on. And this has nothing to do with those people. They were spouting things. I accepted them. I took them as true without really trial and error, without really understanding, are they true for me? So some of these statements that I've mentioned a minute ago, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, not necessarily true. If God wanted you somewhere else, he would put you there. Not necessarily true. Let go, let God. I think it's a great philosophy, but it should be work your ass off, then let go, let God. You know what I'm saying? We try to use so many spiritual paths as a way to get away from being a human being. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention that I didn't even think I was going to today. There are a lot of people that constantly talk about with their crystal ball healings and their meditations and all of these things, which I love, that they'd rather be on a different plane, that they're not meant to be here on earth, that they're spiritual beings having a human experience, which I don't agree with. I used to spout all that stuff. I don't agree with it anymore. I really think heaven is on earth. I think this can be your heaven or hell. You know, in the afterlife, do I believe in it? Yes. But this is where we should be focusing. Instead of diverting our attention and pretending that money isn't important because I'm a spiritual person, which is another story that I can share with you, instead of going down all of those kind of paths, we need to stop, take a big breath, and realize that this is where we are on this earth in physical form. Let's maximize our potential. Let's not try to escape it. You know, when people try to escape reality, I don't care if it's spirituality or drugs, it's the same thing. Let's get immersed in reality. You can still do your Reiki, your crystal bowls, I meditate every morning. You still can do all that kind of great stuff, but let's get grounded here in the physical world and have a great time being here. You know, a number of years ago, I remember listening to another preacher, and I was visiting from out of town, and I was going to be speaking at the service right after him, and he said, hey, I got a secret to tell you. I was talking to my angels last night, and you know what they told me? They told me that they're jealous because they can't have sex, and we can. Isn't that great? See, that's that humble, open, fun, spiritual, I guess you want to call it demeanor, attitude that can bring so much joy. The last thing I'm going to say is this, and I did something the other day on this. There are a lot of people who are really entrapped in spiritual or religious belief systems that think money is evil and money is not good, and that if you're on a really deep religious or spiritual path, and if you don't have money, and if you're stressed about money, that's okay. It's not okay. You can be incredibly spiritual. You can be outrageously spiritual, and you can make really good money, and that's okay. But to say that you don't need money and that money isn't part of your spiritual path while your hair is thinning, you're losing weight, you're addicted to nicotine or sugar or something else, that's not really smart, is it? You know what I'm saying? So let's get really clear on your beliefs. I'm sharing mine here. You could agree or maybe you don't agree, and either way is great with me. But as I continue to grow, I start to see that a lot of the stuff I taught in the past, that I believed in the past, is not true at all. It's just not true at all. You need to find your own path. We need to quit being followers. And because someone has sold 1 million books or someone is up on the pulpit preaching doesn't mean their word is correct for you. It may not be right at all for you. So let's get away with putting people on pedestals, and I'm talking about the Pope and ministers and preachers and all of these other types of people. You know, the gurus in the spiritual world, get them off the pedestal, understand they're human. They can make mistakes too. I made a lot of mistakes when I was a preacher. I made a lot of errors, and not on purpose. I was doing the best that I could, but I really wasn't seasoned. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that word seasoned is incredibly important. Many people don't get their seasoning on their spiritual or religious path until their 60s, 70s, or 80s. That's the truth. Keep searching, keep having a blast with your spiritual or religious path, and make sure it's right for you. If I can help you out at all with your spiritual work, go to davidessel.com or talkdavid.com. Email me. I'd love to take you deeper in your own spiritual and or religious path, regardless of what religion or what spirituality you believe in. Just go to talkdavid.com or davidessel.com, okay? I love all you guys. Thanks so much for being here. Have a beautiful day.